Hey everybody, this is Joe Gregory. This is my presentation on psychoanalysis. For the sake of time, I'm not going to get into the history of how it was developed. I'm going to hit more on the kind of the key components that make up psychoanalysis. So firstly, quick definition. Psychoanalysis is a therapeutic approach and theory that seeks to explore the unconscious mind to uncover repressed feelings and interpret deep-rooted emotions and patterns, often using techniques like dream analysis and free association. So a couple of the key components there that definition mentions. We've got free association, which is the therapeutic approach in which the patient is allowed or invited to speak freely about whatever comes to mind. And the idea is that it'll reveal unconscious information and bring those things up. It can also help bring out traumatic events to the conscious level so they can be pondered and analyzed. Main benefit of this is that it's guided by the patient, and it's not necessarily the therapist that's digging around or guiding things. Another key component of psychoanalysis is analysis of dreams. So analysis of dreams is based on the idea that dreams are a symbolic representation of unconscious thought. Freud theorized that dreams were made up of two types of content. You got your manifest content, which is like the literal thing that you're dreaming about, and the latent content, which is the symbolic representation of that thing, of the manifest content. So, for example, let's say I dream about a train. The train would be the manifest content. The latent content could be the symbolic representation, which could be like a form of escape or something. So some things that make up the dream or mechanisms within the dream and the unconscious is the dream work. This distorts the meaning of the dream so that it is more tolerable, more tolerable to the dreamer. Condensation, which is when multiple subjects, like people, objects, or events, are represented by one symbol. So going back to the train example, that could be if I had multiple forms of escape in real life, they could all be condensed and to be symbolized by the train. And then displacement is dreaming about something symbolically related to an anxiety-inducing event, but avoiding the event itself. So that's fairly straightforward. So kind of foundational theories in psychoanalysis is psychoanalytic theory of personality. So firstly, we've got the structure of personality, which as we know is the id, ego, and superego. The id being the kind of animalistic, instinctive component. It wants what it wants, and it wants it right now, and would do anything to get it. You've got the superego, which is the moral component. And then you've got the ego, which is the decision-making component. It's kind of is a mediator, works between the ego and the superego and the id to come up with the best decisions so that one can, find what they need and fulfill their needs while in a socially acceptable way. So obviously when you're dealing with unconscious thought and in psychoanalysis, you've got to have an idea of the levels of awareness. So first level would be your conscious level. This is what interacts with the world, the very surface level. You got the pre-conscious, which is just below that in Freud's kind of iceberg representation of this theory. Pre-conscious just below the conscious. It's kind of that top level of water that you can still see into. You can retrieve thoughts there, but it might take a little bit more looking, not quite as obvious as the conscious level. And then you've got the unconscious, which is much deeper, much more difficult to retrieve thoughts there. So I got my definition from this online article about psychoanalysis. So there's my reference there. Everything else came from the slides and lecture. Thank you for your time and listening to this presentation.